Perfect.
Yeah, man, how's it going?
Doing all right, man. How about yourself?
Oh man, I'm good. I'm good. It's just really overcast here in LA. Last week it was like a ridiculous heat wave. I'm talking like 114, so I'm glad, it feels like fall again.
Yeah, I have some friends out there, and I was seeing that in the stories. I was like, damn, that looks crazy out there. It gets pretty humid here in Atlanta, but uh, not up to like 117, 118 degrees like out there. That's
I
crazy.
bet. Yeah, and climate change is a real thing because like it's starting to get a little humid here. Like usually it's a dry heat, but like I I don't even know what it's like to, live somewhere with like snow and shit and like something that keeps you from doing your thing. Cause like last week we're just in the house. Like I'm not leaving until nighttime.
Right. I grew up in Virginia, so I got used to like every winter dealing with a lot of snow and having to drive on it and all that kind of stuff. So it's definitely a pain, dude. Yeah, not fun. The wet weather and the elements can definitely affect the workflow.
No kidding. What part of Virginia?
I grew up in like the New River Valley, so like Blacksburg, Richmond, or sorry, Blacksburg, Roanoke, that whole area, and then I
Yeah.
had family in like Norfolk and like Chesapeake, Virginia Beach.
Nice.
So kind of back and forth.
I'm a Hampton U alumni, so
Oh wow, dude,
that's
small world, small
small
world.
world, yeah.
That's wild. Yeah, so I moved to Atlanta like almost 8 years ago, like tail end of 2013. So yeah, that's funny, Virginia.
Cool,
That's
cool.
wild.
Damn, another connection. That's insane. All right. Well, let's kick it off. What's up, everybody? You are tuned into another episode of PALMCAST. I am your host, Chillin' Dylan, host Jesus of SoundCloud, Black Tom Anderson, and your favorite rapper still owes me money. Today, it is going to be an all-out Vaporwave nerd fest, a Sega reminiscent fest. Get ready for some 90s baby and early 2000s nostalgia because I have here with me designer, YouTuber, musician, Cody Vondell. Welcome.
What's up, dude? Greatly appreciate you having me on the show.
This is Pimpin' Palm, the Macam emoji, and I'm just here to remind all the players and playettes in the palm tree that if you're new to the channel, you need to hit that subscribe button, leave us a thumbs up, and turn on your notification bell. And don't forget to leave a comment below before you...
Thank you, man. So as we were kind of talking, you're based in Atlanta, and what came first exactly? Was it the making music, producing and singing? Was it the YouTubing thing? Like what was the first endeavor of yours?
Totally. As a kid, I really was into art. Like I guess as like far back as like the early '90s when I was like first getting into like Ninja Turtles and stuff like that, Star Wars, Sonic the Hedgehog. I knew I wanted to grow up and like work on stuff with like characters and music and video, comics, video games. That was always really important to me as a kid, like throughout the '90s. And by the 2000s, I was kind of really into the music scene. I got into a lot of stuff, Gorillaz, The Prodigy, Mindless Self-Indulgence, the Beastie Boys, all that kind of stuff. So throughout the 2000s, I was really more focused on the music thing. And I'd say the 2010s was really all about bringing the music and the graphics together. And I'd say like, yeah, 2010s is when I started like actually doing like music videos and stuff like that. And 2020 was kind of the start of like really kind of pushing forward with the YouTube stuff. I started with a couple of like, I wanted to direct a few of my own little videos and stuff. So throughout like the pandemic, I was kind of putting together my own songs and shooting my own videos, having a few friends help me out with like shooting stuff. And then, yeah, really doing like the YouTube stuff has really only been like the past 8 or 9 months. I essentially tried to do a YouTube video to kind of talk about like cool fonts. And I figured if I posted that like a week before I put out like my last music video that I released, like it might get a few more eyes on my channel. And it sure did. Everybody kind of just shows up looking for fonts. So that's kind of been.
And that's how I found out about you, through looking for fonts, man. Because
sure.
as I've turned into more of a graphic design nerd myself, like finding the Sagan font, like the Dreamcast style one.
Yeah.
Yeah, through that and going on Defont to download shit,
Right.
I was able to find some of your YouTube tutorials, and I'm like, yo, he gets it, just with the Y2K fonts. And
Shit.
like I had told you in a DM before, I think I posted it in the comments on one of your videos, when it came down to the character designing of the early 2000s mascots, I was like, bro, I could really watch you just animate these characters all day long. I mean, illustrate these characters like just from the tiniest features, and just when you add the color and just have all these cast of characters you make up from these packs, and the way you put them together, I was like, I could get into like actually just watching this just as something new to watch.
Right. I appreciate that, dude. Yeah, the characters thing, that really just stems from just growing up in the 90s, being like inspired by like, Sonic, Jet Set Radio, like brands like Jinko and stuff like that. As a kid, I was drawing all this kind of stuff. Like, I've always been drawing. And I'm actually putting together a YouTube video right now. Last time I was visiting Virginia, I went through like a file cabinet with all my old artwork, and I just took photos of all of it. And as I've been working through it and putting like the video together, I've been seeing like all the different parts that, just kind of pulling the little ideas from that and kind of putting it into the vector pack that's available on Etsy and stuff like that. And yeah, the mascot pack and the Y2K icons pack and all that kind of stuff has really kind of helped the audience for the YouTube channel. It's like they want access to like the same icons and like resources that I've created. So it's like, I started putting it on Etsy, and it's just like, yeah, it's turned to a thing where it's like, it seems like people are really learning a lot in designing graphics, but also, like you said, it's like people are like, oh, Cody's like a Bob Ross of Y2K, It's like you can just watch the dude just, illustrate logos and mascots and stuff. And like, I'm happy to hear that because I really love doing that stuff.
Yeah, that's the perfect way to describe it. The Bob Ross of Y2K.
Right.
I would remember in one of the videos I was just watching of you were explaining how one of the fonts you used was also used on Post Malone's album Beer Bongs and Bentleys, and just seeing these little details like resurge from back then to now is like incredible thing. And you see I got my Dreamcast shirt on. This is obviously PALMCAST, so we're both born of that Sega Dreamcast era. I know you love to play Jet Set Radio, but just thinking about it, I'm like, the Dreamcast and like PS1, those graphics were some of the first art that I saw,
right?
As a kid. So have you gotten into like animating 3D motion graphics yourself?
Yeah. So the work that I do in 3D is sort of limited. I've done some 3D stuff. I used Cinema 4D for several years. I'm not currently using it. My subscription is not paid for right now, so I just haven't used it. I also use Element 3D. It's like a plugin for After Effects, so I've been using that a lot lately. Yeah, the 3D stuff, like I kind of come and go with that. I have some cool like other plugins like Retro Dither and After Effects that gives it that like you can kind of set it to look like some PlayStation, Xbox, Dreamcast looking kind of stuff. So yeah, my 3D stuff is limited, but it's a fun thing to play with.
How simple is that for a beginner to pick up?
The 3D stuff?
Yeah.
It's as simple as watching a YouTube tutorial, you know what I mean? And having access to the right programs and stuff. A lot of people, I run a Discord where like people just kind of show up looking for resources, posting graphics they're working on, a lot of networking, musicians and stuff. And a lot of times people are like showing up looking for like, I just got to make a brand or something like as soon as possible. I make t-shirts. I'm like, instead of looking for like the easiest, freest way to go about creating a brand, like I'm always trying to like push, like if you're on the server, I'm always going to recommend like get Illustrator, get Photoshop. Like Adobe's like industry standard. So like knowing that you're using that kind of program and that like you have like access to all the tutorials ever, because most tutorials they're dealing with Photoshop, After Effects, Illustrator, stuff like that.
So would you recommend people use YouTube tutorials or take classes professionally? Because you went to art school yourself. So I'm kind of curious, what's your stance on like the traditional schooling route or YouTube University?
Okay, well, so I'm actually an instructor at a university as well. So it's hard for me to really set. Personally, my route, I did go to school, but honestly, the reason that I've like had success in my career is not because I went to school. It's because far before college was even a thing coming up, like I knew what I wanted to do. I was trying to get into like Photoshop and stuff like that as soon as possible. When I was like a teenager, like during like the MySpace era, I like pretty much was doing music stuff and came across other musicians in like the scene that I was in who were just like utilizing Photoshop, After Effects, Illustrator, all that kind of stuff. And I realized like, as like a 16-year-old, like I gotta get on this. Like I have to learn these programs and all that kind of stuff. And school was more of that kind of thing where it was like, I knew I needed like some type of degree if I wanted to get like a real employment job, you know what I mean? And I'm fortunate that I did that for a while. It just so happened to be that one of the connections I made way back in the day was Mike Diva, and he really has taken off over. Yeah, so he's taken off like over these past several years. It's like every year he levels up. And for a long time, I still work with him pretty often on different things, but I would say like getting that kind of work allowed me to kind of stop being like a full-time employee and kind of start my own business, I was starting to network with other directors and stuff like that. So I spent like the past maybe like 5 years working on like, industry music videos. I've worked for like Lil Nas X, Panini, that was done with Mike. Worked on what was it, the Lonely Islands Netflix special, that was through Mike as well. Mike introduced me to Adi Shankar, who put together the Netflix special, was it Guardians of Justice? So it went through a couple of title changes. So that's the one that he landed on at the end. But worked on that for a few years. Worked on a bunch of music videos for I do a lot of titles, a lot of font stuff. So Demi Lovato, Marshmello, Tiesto, a lot of those guys. Sophia Carson, a lot of pop stars.
Absolutely. I didn't know that about you. It's funny you'd say Lil Nas X Panini because two of my really good friends actually met on that set, like being extras in the video, and now they're a couple.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
That is wild. Yeah, I spent an extensive, close to 2 months working on pretty much, when he pops into frame for the first time, there's rotating graphics around him. Mm-hmm. I put all that kind of stuff together. Like when he's walking through the city and you see "It's a Dream" gets written up on screen, that's my handwriting. You know what I mean? So
oh wow,
I did a whole lot of work on that. Mike had a really big team, and I was fortunate to be one of the main visual guys. I worked with Silica, who's a really talented graphic designer. We kind of put together some graphics, and I did a lot of graphics as well, and animated a lot of stuff, some pseudo 3D stuff using Element and stuff like that. So whole lot of fun. That was a really fun project to work on.
Yes, yeah, I bet. It sounds so exciting, bro. So let's talk about this. Sonic Adventure in particular, man, is the quintessential Dreamcast game.
Yeah.
Not just because of the gameplay itself, but because it was the first entry point of Sonic on Dreamcast, so
yeah.
They had just really amazing timeless music that I'll still go back to on YouTube to just search their soundtracks and then era stuff and implementing it in what you got now.
I got the Dreamcast plugged up right back there. Yeah, dude, I revisit it all the time. As far as the Sonic Adventure original, are you a Sonic Adventure? So you're more Sonic Adventure than Sonic Adventure 2.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'd say so.
Same. Sonic Adventure 2, it has its merits and stuff, but Sonic Adventure 1, you're absolutely right. It was that I was big into Sonic on Genesis. Genesis before Dreamcast.
Really?
I was crazy about Sega Genesis. Yeah.
Yeah, see the Genesis, I had a Genesis, but I didn't really play it that much. It was more Dreamcast really was the thing that blew my mind. But I played all the older Genesis Sonic games when they came out on Sonic Mega Collection for GameCube.
Dope. Yeah, so I got a Genesis at the end of way after its lifespan. Pretty much maybe a year or two before the Dreamcast came out, when Genesis games were $5 or $10 a piece. I pretty much got to check out the Genesis a decade after it came out.
Right.
But yeah, I was playing that, just loving all those Genesis titles, Streets of Rage, Sonic, Toe Jam and Earl, all that stuff. Dynamite Headdy, all that stuff was so cool. And yeah, so I was just a huge Sonic nerd. I was watching the cartoons and stuff. So when
Sonic Underground and then Sonic X Sonic X was awesome.
Sonic X. Sonic Underground was kind of the last Sonic cartoon that I was really into. By the time Sonic X came out, I was really trying to I was kind of in that edgy boy phase.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't watching as many cartoons as I was trying to find music videos and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, dude, I would say Sonic Adventure 1 specifically, that is the perfect transition. I mean, there are elements of Sonic 3 and Knuckles. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
You feel it's the direct continuation of that, only we're now in 3D. And that was a really exciting thing to see, the new design of Sonic in 3D and all that kind of stuff. I remember as a kid, for a year or so before Dreamcast came out, you'd see little articles about it in video game magazines and stuff.
Yeah, there's some type of magic nostalgia to when you see kind of bad 3D graphics, you know how Sonic Jam was the protege for Sonic Adventure. Just
mm-hmm.
Sometimes I want to go back. I never owned a Sega Saturn either because it was a commercial failure.
Right.
But yeah, just the backgrounds there and how he would move around was just so choppy. And even playing Sonic the Fighters, I never got to play that in the arcade, but when it came out on Sonic Mega Collection for the GameCube, I was really into that too.
Yeah, actually, I had a few of the GameCube titles. A friend of mine like moved away at one point and was like, I'm leaving you with my GameCube. And I was like, thank you, dude. And when he did, I just bought a bunch of Sonic titles and relived that. Yeah, dude, the Saturn era was wild. I actually got a Sega Saturn at a like a thrift store, like way back in the day, probably like 7th or 8th grade, like maybe a year or two after the Dreamcast came out. So like I happened to see it. It was super cheap, and I was like, I gotta get this. This is like, I think I got the Sega Saturn for like $30.
Yeah,
like
that sounds about right.
A failure, you know,
because other than online, I'm like, where could I find a Sega Saturn right now?
Right.
Because you know, all the mom and pop video game stores, all the
This
mom
is
and pop
20
video game stores don't really last. Like, you know, the retailers, like there's a few of them, and like, you know, I'm always very appreciative of like when I find them. Like, shout out to Game Dude in North Hollywood.
Yeah, I got a shout out to Super Game Station, where I grew up in Virginia. Like, we had a flea market that was like the spot to go. It's called Happy's Flea Market, and as a kid, like that was where we bought our vinyl records and our video games, like our old school video games and stuff. I've always been like a Sega Genesis, Sega Dreamcast nerd, like all throughout the 2000s. Like I went through like a little phase in the like probably like early to mid 2000s where I was like really trying to do the band thing. But I'd say by like 2005, 2006, I was like right back into Sega Genesis and Dreamcast stuff. So yeah, growing up in Happy's, it ended up shutting down, and I had a friend, his name's John, who put together his own shop. It's in like the next town over, but I mean, it has that same reminiscent feel of like going in there, seeing all the video games. Super Game Station, yeah, big shout out.
Super Game Station, shout out. Okay, well, recently in Atlanta, you went to Dragon Con, man. You look like you had a great time on that vlog, man. Tell me about it.
Oh yeah, so Dragon Con is a blast. It's like a staple of the Atlanta like scene. Like once a year, everybody parties. We've got a few cons that go on here, MomoCon and AWA, but like that is Dragon Con's the big one. That's the main one that like people from all over the place come to. I think we had like 65,000 people here this year.
Right.
So,
and for people who don't know what it is, it's a convention for cosplay, video game fandoms, movies, comic books, TV, etc. But like, tell me in your own words what it is.
I would say it's Comic-Con, but it's a different brand. It's the same environment, the same vibe. We got panels, we've got the parade, we've got, you know, all it's like Comic-Con. It's just Dragon Con. It's, you know, a different one.
Right. Comic-Con, but a different brand. Okay. Makes sense. Okay. Recently you showed a tutorial. I don't know if it was a tutorial or like a walkthrough on your YouTube channel about this virtual art gallery.
Right.
And all these rooms that you took people through, which were made by friends of yours, were like salutes to different eras. And, you know, there was a Dreamcast room, of course, and then there was a salute to like early 2000s like hip-hop music videos, which I loved. I think I saw stuff from like Rhapsody the Basement on there, so it was kind of something that kind of looked like the Chow Garden too. Yeah, tell me about how that was and like how that thing came to be.
Yeah, totally. So I think are you talking about two different videos?
No, it
was just one.
Yeah, it's just one.
Okay, so that video that you're talking about was the Are You Here gallery, or You Are Here gallery. It was put together by Max. Big shout out. Really talented group of people worked on that. I was one of like very many artists, and I didn't actually have anything to do with like constructing like that Chow Garden Jet Set Radio style, Space Channel 5 style environment or anything. I was just like lucky that I got to feature some of my artwork there. But yeah, it was a really cool thing that I think a lot of people like all worked together on and stuff, led by Max Miramax. And yeah, that was just a really cool thing. And it was sort of doing the virtual gallery for the novelty of it. It was like months before the pandemic started, so it was more just like a virtual space that you could show up, check out really cool artwork, check out archives of stuff that was actually created back then, and then work that people are doing now that is referencing that era. Really?
Well, in the same breath as like a virtual art gallery, Cody, are you like interested in the whole like NFT space?
Yeah, so I have a lot of friends who are doing that right now. I gotta give a shout out to Shark Anthony, who features me. So Shark and I have worked together. He's mixed and mastered a lot of my songs, and he's really dived deep into the whole NFT space over these past like maybe 2 years or so. And I've been fortunate, like he's kind of given me the opportunity to show some of my music videos. And he does these festivals, right? So like it'll be a virtual space. They'll have a big like YouTube playlist of all the featured artists. And it'll just be going on for like a whole afternoon and evening and stuff like that. And like you can just show up, walk around. It's on the CryptoVoxels network, and it is what's it called? Afrodroids.
Mhm.
It's really cool. Yeah, really cool thing. I definitely want to get more involved with it. I'm really trying to. There's so many creative things that I want to do that it's almost like, well, what's the most like feasible? What's something I can do right now? And I'd say over these past few months, it's been more like YouTube tutorials and stuff like that. But yeah, absolutely, I do want to jump more into NFT space. You know, the more I see, like, I want to have like a place that kind of feels like the garage from Jet Set Radio or Jet Set Radio Future, but also sort of looks like my crib. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
to like kind of like mix my real world, my actual like little home studio into like a 3D virtual space, I think would be really cool. So that's something I've been thinking about. Haven't really actually taken the time to plan it out because there's so many different things I'm trying to do, but that is definitely on the list.
Yeah, that's the curse of a good content creator. So many different things you're trying to do. But I was about to say, I love how you're just diversifying on every platform. Like you have your tutorials and music videos on YouTube, you have music on Spotify, you have Etsy, you have stuff on Bandcamp, you have a Discord. It's like, damn, Cody's all over the place. Like that's really how I want to be, just more organized with it.
Appreciate it. Yeah, and it's at Cody Vondell on all the platforms. So fortunate, like, you know, like I can use the same at. So it's like pretty much, you know, like YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, whatever. It's all gonna be, you know, the same, like at Cody Vondell. So yeah, dude, I'm trying to just have stuff popping on every platform. Just it seems like, man, I've been hanging out on the internet for nearly 20 years. So it's just like watching the way like more, you know, we've seen platforms kind of pop off and die down and different stuff like that. So just trying to be available on everything and kind of cut content to fit. Like obviously I'm doing the YouTube videos, but TikTok wants, you know, a different format and short form content. So I'm trying to like kind of cut down my YouTube tutorials into like smaller bite-sized pieces for like TikTok and Instagram and stuff like that. You know, have music available on Spotify, Bandcamp. Yeah, just trying to be
Exactly. You know, the game's always evolving. So I think you stay one step ahead of it when you just keep constantly making things. One more compliment I did want to give you is that your room is dope too. Like your setup is cool. And like for years, even before I got into the whole green screen, I just showed my messy ass room as it was,
right.
like not even caring. But I'm like, yo, there's so much I can really learn from you, really, from when I watch your tutorials, when I just watch how you speak on camera to the vlogs. There's just so much I'm soaking up every time I tune into one of your videos. Got to be honest with you.
Very grateful to hear that, man. Yeah, you know, I'm 33 now, so I really kind of come to that position where it's like, you know, I realize like I have the ability to kind of give guidance and knowledge to people, and like I'm appreciative of that. Like all the various like things that I've picked up along the way, I'm able to kind of share that with the younger crowd, and that is like the most gratifying thing, to be able to like people like to when I see people like posting the mascots and like the vector icon stuff, like where they've downloaded my assets, like that just warms my heart. Like that's what every artist wants, is to see like somebody taking everything that you can give them and running with it. Like that's just the best feeling. So yeah, I greatly appreciate that, dude.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's my less than 30-day countdown to 30 right now. So is there anything I should be prepared for once I hit the big 3-0, or anything I should be like thinking about?
Well, first off, happy birthday when it
Thank
comes
you.
up. And second off, nah, dude, this is like the way I'm looking at my 30s. You know, like I say, I'm 33. It's been a few years, but most of it's been like this whole pandemic stuff and whatever. It's different, but at the same time, it's like I feel like at this age, I have so much more knowledge about life in general. You know, where in your 20s, you kind of have a little bit of a like you're led by your ego. I feel like I've really let that go at this point. Like in my 30s, like I'm really trying to look out. Like, you know, I've got a nephew, I've got a cousin. They're both young. Like I've got, you know, a class full of students. I've got a bunch of young people on YouTube that are like looking to me. So like, I'm not trying to be led by the ego. I'm really trying to like really focus on like how I can help people. Like that's been my main goal lately. And I feel like the older I get, it just makes more sense. It's like, you know, I had my time to, you know, learn these things and have fun. And I'm fortunate for the people that I learned from. And I just want to be able to be that for other people now.
Profound. Yeah. You know, as you could probably already tell, I like to skip around with this, but going back to music, one of your big influences is Gorillaz. And I'll tell you, it's one of mine too, because Demon Days was the first CD I ever bought with my own money.
Oh, for real?
For real.
Yeah, I ever bought was Eiffel 65.
Oh, I'm blue.
Yep. That's hilarious. Yo, so Gorillaz, yeah. Gorillaz has always been such a major influence on what I do. Just the whole idea of a virtual band. As a kid growing up, like I remember Gorillaz came out like right at the same time that I was like playing Jet Set Radio.
Oh
like,
yeah, now it totally makes sense.
Yeah, and so I was like, yo, this band is like the game that I'm playing, but
yeah.
And I was just obsessed with it, and it's just always been like a huge influence. So like I'd say like about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when I started doing like, I have my little mascot Gucci.
What's his name?
Gucci.
Gucci. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just thought that was just you, but like.
Well, it started out like I've been drawing this character since I was like a kid. Okay. And the older I've gotten, the more it's like it makes sense to kind of. What I really want to do is over the next like year or two, when I'm not doing all the tutorials and everything else I'm working on, I really want to like build a little bit of lore around this character. Like I have a whole lot of ideas for him in my mind that I just haven't really fleshed out. But I think I'm gonna do it in a way that's like Gorillaz, where it's like music videos, but they kind of expand and show like the world that he's living in, and this whole thing like one of the main things is like he's got Saturn's like this big planet is always behind him and it kind of follows him everywhere he goes, but he can't actually go there, so it's like always behind him. So I really want to like build up some lore and story. I've got a couple of ideas for like friends and stuff that he can kind of run into, some nemesises and just stuff like that. So yeah, I really want to turn the mascot into more of like its own like kind of story, and absolutely kind of based off like what the Gorillaz have done.
Right. And like it kind of just hit me like thinking about the Gorillaz' early work, like the world is spinning too fast. I can't remember the name of the song right now, but hearing that I'm like, oh yeah, that totally fits with like Jet Grind Radio. Like I could hear that on the soundtrack.
Oh yeah, it's that big beat era, like the late 90s, early 2000s. And that was like when I was like discovering music as like a 10-11-year-old kid.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was big beat, you know what I mean? Like the big beat electronic sound, like all the video games, racing games, fighting games, like Hackers, like the soundtrack, Mortal Kombat track, Lost in Space, the really bad 90s movie still had a fire soundtrack. So
I mean, it was those, but like my favorite soundtrack, and I still want to get this tattooed, my favorite soundtracks will forever be the Tony Hawk games.
Oh dude, I was just revisiting that stuff like 2 weeks ago. Yeah, I love that whole era of music.
Love that whole era. That's really what got me hooked on underground hip-hop as well as punk.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would say playing Tony Hawk, Jet Set Radio, Hackers, Mortal Kombat, Lost in Space, like all like movies and video games from that late 90s, early 2000s. Like just as a kid, like just like absorbing all that, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It all. I mean, I'm like, right now is where you insert the corny quote, like the creative is the child who never died, or like
right. Yeah. Like a little kid. Like I like to think of it. There's like a little like 10-year-old version of me inside my brain, like operating stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah. Same.
Black, they open.
I like to think of it as it's like one whole stream of consciousness from birth to like currently, and it's like it doesn't matter like, oh, if you like this as a kid, it's like this is you as a person, and these are just things you pick up on along the way to make you as a person. Like even my metal phase in middle school and then getting into like emo and like Panic at the Disco and shit like still carries to me to now. Like we were in the club dancing to that last night,
right? Was it like an emo night kind of thing?
No, bro. When we walked in, they were playing like hip hop and playing like turn up music, and then like they just played some point. They were playing reggaeton, and then they were playing the Killers, and then they were playing that.
Little throwback, just all over the place. That's dope. Yeah, dude. I played a little bit of guitar in a band, did a little bit of vocals, like metal, that whole kind of thing for a few years when I was in high school too. So yeah, just like going through all the different phases that you go through. It's fun to just at this age just kind of take all the different pieces that it's like that was a essential part of my history. I'm gonna keep that around, kind of thing.
Right. Hey, when is your birthday, Cody?
February.
February. Are you Aquarius or Pisces?
Yeah, Aquarius.
Cool. All right. Yeah, I'm just one of those like gotta collect zodiac types. Gotta see who's who.
About it, to be honest, I know Aquarius because that was like what I learned, but I don't really know much about like what it means, kind of thing.
Okay, between like Aquarius and Libra, it's like, we can always be ourselves around each other. It's always like a good like spark of creativity when we're around one another. And it's honestly, if you look at a lot of dope songs have been made by like Aquarius and Libra. Like,
okay, so we're like a duo.
Yeah, like Dr. Dre and Snoop, Dr. Dre and Eminem, Doja Cat and Gucci Mane, The Weeknd and who else? The Weeknd and Doja Cat, a lot of different people.
All right, bet. Yeah, I had no idea about that.
Different combinations. I mean,
the way that all that stuff works when you start realizing it. I haven't taken the time to like connect all those dots. That's pretty dope.
I just gotta ask. Okay, so on your favorite songs list on Spotify, I saw a couple that overlap in my playlist called Strictly Slappers, which is like my playlist of over 3,000 of my favorite songs.
I bet.
And I saw Dare by Gorillaz.
Of course.
I saw Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites, Shout out to Skrillex. He's
Yeah.
from the same neighborhood that I live in, locking out of Flint Ridge.
Yeah, that dubstep era was dope. Yeah.
Empire Ants. So Plastic Beach was such a good album.
Yeah, it was, dude. I love the aesthetic. It's hard for me to pick my mind. Like those 3 first Gorillaz albums, it's like they're a trilogy. Like they're so good. It's hard for me to pick a favorite. On any day, it could be the original, it could be their Demon Days, or it could be Plastic Beach. I love those first 3 albums. In fact, like they've done some cool stuff since then, but like honestly, in my opinion, Gorillaz hasn't done something as dope as those first 3 albums since they came out. Like those defined my youth in the 2000s, you know?
Yeah, I mean, when I saw Gorillaz live in 2018, I was like, "Oh, this is really what it's about." And it was kind of crazy not to see them on a screen, just to see Damon Albert up there with like all these different musicians,
right?
And then kind of have like, you know, the animations going on in the background.
Yeah, I saw them in 2017 or 2018 too, and it was definitely a dope experience. Yeah, absolutely, because I'd never gotten to see them live.
Yeah. Mindless Self-Indulgence was a band that I didn't really know that much about, but I saw that I hearted the Stupid Motherfucker song. So I'm like, oh yeah, I've heard this before, but I had to go back and listen to it this morning. I'm like, oh, now I remember this one.
Yeah, so Mindless Self-Indulgence was like a huge chunk of my life when I was in like all throughout high school and stuff. Like I had this another project of mine was called CBZL, and the whole thing was just like trying to be like Mindless Self-Indulgence, and there was just a whole scene, like I was talking about earlier, a whole scene of musicians on like MySpace and YouTube, and everybody was trying to do like the Mindless Self-Indulgence style kind of music, just really out there, wild, almost like hyper pop, but from 20 years ago. So I was really into that stuff, and yeah, Mindless Self-Indulgence is just like one of the big things, and it's kind of funny because that whole scene that I'm talking about right now, it seems like the kids, like Gen Z right now, is digging up like our MSI era bands and stuff. So really some kids found like CBZL songs that I wrote like 15, 16 years ago on like Soulseek. So stuff is getting shared that I'm like, yo, like that's wild.
Well, let me ask you this, Cody. One of the songs on this playlist by Mindless Self-Indulgence is The F Word. And how did that one make it on there?
So like Mindless Self-Indulgence, like 20 years ago was a very era like that we live in right now. They were like a beacon for the outcasts of society. So like I always felt like growing up I was a little bit like I didn't really fit in, and Mindless Self-Indulgence was like kind of like a hero, like that stood out, that said you can be wild and weird and out there and whatever, and they can call you whatever they want to call you, but you can take it and run with it. And because they kind of have this whole thing like there's nothing that you can say that I haven't already said about myself, that I haven't already done to myself kind of thing. So it's sort of this kind of what can you call me that I haven't called myself kind of thing. So it was like this whole like era of like self empowerment through like, you know, it was 20 years ago. So, you know, it's a different era.
I got you. It was kind of like Lil B calling himself a bitch. Like, oh, I'm that bitch. Yeah.
If you don't know Mindless Self-Indulgence, it probably from the outside, especially with the way things are nowadays, it probably looks really weird. But if you were to go back 20 years ago, MSI was like a beacon for the people who didn't fit in socially.
Yeah. Well, I love how you have Rina Sawayama on this playlist too.
Oh yeah. She did a whole album, the song Afterlife, and like that whole album, that whole era was fire. Like I love that.
The Sawayama album is one that I need on vinyl. Like it is so good. I don't even own a record player, but it's so good, you know.
Right. It really is. Yeah, it's fire. Yeah. And I really love that. When I heard Afterlife, I was just like, something about it reminded me of like, do you remember Orgy and like Deadzy, like that whole
I've heard of that band, but Deadzy. I actually had a question about them being on this playlist. I didn't know the song you had by them on here, but the song Key to Gramercy Park, which was on the ATV Off-Road Fury soundtrack, is so fire.
Yeah, so Deadzy, dude, one of my favorite acts of all time. They only had I guess they had 2 albums, but they were so far apart that like everybody knows Commencement, and yeah, Key to Gramercy Park, Mansion World. There are a couple of just absolute bangers on that record, and they had some music videos that were just really cool. They kind of had this like 80s synth pop, like bright neon colors kind of thing, and it was during the era where everybody sounded like Limp Bizkit and shit. You know what I mean? So like they were just doing like I was just always attracted to stuff like Mindless Self-Indulgence or Deadzy, anything that was just bright and neon and just like different, retro.
Every now and then I kind of want to tell myself, you know what, you should try to get into, because a lot of my friends in like the underground rap and SoundCloud rap scene cite these guys as influences, but like I should go back and listen to like watch old Limp Bizkit videos, go back and watch like old Deftones, Korn, stuff like that from that late 90s, early 2000s, like rap rock era, just to like kind of see who was ahead of their time for that era, as far as like people who were definitely on the tracks, like kind of hip hop, but the crowd was like definitely metal.
Yeah. That whole era was really fun. And that was kind of like I was probably like, 10, 11, 12, 13 when like the new metal thing was in.
Yeah.
So, I liked a lot of other stuff too. I liked a whole lot of like techno stuff. But yeah, I loved all that new metal stuff. These days I don't really revisit it as much. Like certain stuff like maybe like Deftones or Linkin Park, I feel is like really solid, kind of ahead of their time kind of stuff. But I can't really say that I'm like a big fan of like Limp Bizkit or Korn or some of those other acts.
Well, neither have I been. I just want to kind of check them out because I feel like I kind of missed out on those times,
Definitely.
I mean, I know about like Alien Ant Farm, of course, but like,
right.
I don't know, maybe, I'm a big fan of like, Bones and Xavier Wolves and, all Sesh Hollow Water Boys, Suicide Boys. So I kind of want to like study what kind of inspired some of that.
Right, for sure. Yeah, I would say, dig up some of that new metal stuff, dude. There's a whole lot of fun stuff.
Yeah,
like,
new metal.
Yeah, it's not like my favorite scene. Like, I definitely like some stuff like that when I was like younger. But yeah, dude, like, check all those music videos out. Check out all the album artwork and all that kind of stuff, because it is a fun aesthetic to kind of revisit.
Yeah, I'd say my first favorite metal band, hands down, was Slipknot.
Was it?
Yeah, it still is.
Slipknot.
No doubt. It's definitely not for everybody. I went to see them live for the first time about a year ago. But nice. Yeah, that's a whole nother topic, whole nother cult following. One more thing about the playlist. Invaders Must Die. You know what that reminded me of? The Spider-Man 1 soundtrack for PS1. Have you played that game?
If it was
it was on Dreamcast too.
Yeah, I have that game. Yeah.
Oh yeah, classic.
That's the soundtrack.
The Dreamcast version is like mad expensive on eBay and Amazon.
Is it for real? I have the same copy I've had since 20 years ago.
I love it. Yeah. I still have all of my old Dreamcast games. I feel like somehow 20 years ago I lost Sonic Shuffle, but
I had Shuffle, but I lost Sonic Adventure 2. So my physical copy of Sonic Adventure 2, which is like, I'm a Sonic Adventure 1 boy, but like I feel like a lot of people kind of look to Adventure 2. So to know that got away somewhere over the years, that's a bummer.
No doubt, definitely.
Prodigy Must Die. That whole like Prodigy is like up there with Mindless Self-Indulgence, 9 Inch Nails, Beastie Boys, Gorillaz. Like those are like my favorite bands of all time.
Yeah, you're giving me stuff to study, man. I gotta check all of this out.
For sure.
Yeah. Now, your cover for Fathom with that same, I don't know what that name of the font is, that Beer Bongs and Bentley font, but when it's just like your face on there, the way you kind of photoshopped it, well, it just kind of reminds me of one of my other favorite all-time albums, God Loves Ugly from Atmosphere. Just kind of the frosted tips up and just like the face like right there. I just had to say that.
Cool. Yeah, the Fathom album. Whoa, that's all the way back like 2014, 2015. But yeah, that whole like that shot from the album cover is from the music video for Take the Party Home, which is like the main song from that album. And that was a fun little era. I don't have too many music videos, but that was kind of like the idea behind that was to like really do the music video, really push that whole aesthetic, and it was a fun era.
Right on. And your album Tropical Depression, man, what was going on at the time you were making that, the instrumental one?
So I would say around 2014, 2015, I put out Fathom, and then after that, I didn't really release music for maybe 4 years or something like that. I was really focused on, trying to build the graphic design brand. I was getting opportunities, working on some of those music videos and stuff like that. So I just wasn't really taking music all that seriously. It was sort of like if you consider like the Tropical Depression was sort of just like, where I was at mentally with music. It was like, I'm not really doing music. It's sort of just not my thing anymore. It's sad because for like 10 or 12 years before that, I was really doing the music thing, you know what I mean? And having a lot of fun with it and networking with a lot of cool people. And so, I would say Tropical Depression was just like various little songs that I kind of created during that time where I wasn't taking it seriously. And then 2019, I decided I wanted to start doing some music stuff again. And I didn't know how I was going to go about it, but I figured maybe I could start out by releasing music that was primarily written around 2016, 2017. And so I released on like Spotify in 2019.
Shout out to Third Eye Collective, because they did an awesome interview with you in 2019. And one of the things you guys talked about was Vaporwave. And you were like, well, Vaporwave's kind of dying at this point. And I was like, you know what? I came into this, like, Palm as a brand was totally inspired by Vaporwave. But that mixed with, like, you know, the music blogs of the 2010s and whatnot. But like, when you said Vaporwave had died, I was kind of thinking, you know what, he may be on to something, because I feel like everybody whose style was inspired by Vaporwave visually and musically have kind of moved on to making their own things now. How do you feel about that today?
Yeah, well, first off, I gotta say shout out to my boy Ben Scarborough. That's like one of my like really like good friends over there at Third Eye Collective. So shout out.
I'd love to tap in with them too.
Yeah, absolutely. You definitely should. Like really cool studio based here in Atlanta. So yeah, big shout out to Ben. That's my boy. And shout out to Mark too. So let's see. Yeah, I guess in that interview we were talking so much about Vaporwave, but I feel like Vaporwave really hit its peak by like, I guess Vaporwave and the whole synthwave outrun scene kind of both together by like 2015, 2016. It felt like we had seen like artists, like I think Rihanna did something Vaporwave, like that was like on like mainstream television in like 2015. 2016 saw like the premiere of Stranger Things, which is like whole. So like by like 2019, when I did that interview, which is honestly like this is the second of the only two podcasts I've really ever been on. So like I just haven't really had the opportunity. So yeah, once again, appreciate you having me on here.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, 2019, like I was just kind of like in a place where like I was really thinking about the way that the decade had ended. Like we're at the end of the decade, and like what's next? And I don't really feel like it's going to be a continuation of like infatuation with 80s mall soft future funk shit. Not that I don't like it. Like I love that stuff, but I think I was seeing in 2019 that like there was going to be an obvious change from like that whole vaporwave, synthwave kind of thing to more of like Y2K, drum and bass, big beat, Sega Dreamcast kind of stuff. Like I think I could like just pick that up just by seeing the way things were trending on the internet, you know?
Yeah, because I've been kind of thinking about like the aesthetics of Palm and, you know, my other brand, Thickness Protection Program too, and how I'm gonna move forward like aesthetically, you know, just as you are a big, you know, I'm a big aesthetics guy too. And I'm like, should I graduate from Vaporwave and try to do as much like self photography and self lo-fi journalism and make whatever I capture myself be the brand? Or for Thickness Protection Program, because I was so hell-bent on like, yeah, I want everybody to know like, yeah, it came from this and it's Palm, and we're gonna still bring that theme there. But I'm like, this morning I was like, this kind of would be dope if I was more on some like secret agent shit, like make it kind of like a little more James Bond, like GoldenEye N64 type vibes for that.
Yeah, totally, dude. Like I mean, there's nothing wrong with like that like the palm tree, like the purple.
Yeah.
I still love it. And like for example, when I put out when I was like kind of messing around with that tropical depression era, that was like during that whole era where that's why I called it tropical depression. It just had that vaporwave look to it. So yeah, dude, like that whole style. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I love that. Yeah. Oh yeah, I see it.
Yeah, so I actually posted that on Reddit like in 2015, 2016. It popped off. I've seen it everywhere. So I figured I need to make my own merchandise with it because people are stealing it, putting it on Redbubble, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, dude, that whole era is like, I kind of look at that as like, that was a fun kind of era. But I also know like the Y2K aesthetic's going to get old too. You know what I'm saying? Like as generations kind of come into their own, like certain things are going to go out of style. Certain things are going to kind of come back. And that's just how it works, you know?
Yeah, and I have no idea who came up with like what was the original you can't really see it that well from here, but like yeah, whoever came up with the original logo of Palm, the original like thing on Redbubble, thank you. I don't know who it was, but like I've been doing this for 7 years. I'm like, they haven't found me yet, but I'm like, I find that shocking because I looked on her page and I think she had like stuff with Raider Clan, so I'm like, we're kind of into the same scenes, right? So like maybe
that's wild.
Yeah, that you never know. I'm like, hey, I already switched it because, you know, after 7 years I was kind of like, tired. I mean, I love it. I might even get like the classic Palm logo tattooed on me.
Oh yeah,
But it's
totally.
like after 7 years, it's like, okay, gotta switch it up somehow. So
Yeah, that's how I was with it too. It was just like I was really doing the vaporwave thing from like 20, like kind of early era, like 2013. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like, but by 2019, I was like, yeah, vaporwave, like it's dope, and there are still going to be people who are like just finding out about it. But for me personally, it was like I'm really trying to dig into that shit from like middle school. You know, for me, you know, so like
Right.
the late 90s, early 2000s kind of style.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about like, the aesthetics of, for thickness protection program, how I can, just like a sleek, like kind of like when, when they walk into the base in Men in Black.
Oh yeah, the original Men in Black, everything about it, I just love that movie.
Yeah.
Yes, the comedy, the everything about the original Men in Black is like one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, I want to use this like overcast day to my advantage after this and just like watch movies and just edit,
Yeah,
Yeah, because you're
go for that Men in Black kind of look, that late 90s kind of vibe on one of my more recent music videos, Future Proof.
right.
That was whole suit, the sunglasses, and that whole like era, like just that era. Boondock
And I'm
Saints.
glad you brought that up because I had a question written down about what inspired Future Proof. So it was Men in Black, huh?
Visually, like a lot of stuff, like Hackers, Men in Black, that whole era, the Crystal Method, huge act. I would say like really, Future Proof is kind of about how the internet's changed. How it used to be a place that was built like by people who are on the internet, and nowadays the internet is like it's like run by like corporations and the government. It's not really like a place where people just do. It feels like how television was 20 years ago. It doesn't feel like you can.
I feel like right now, in terms of the internet, we're witnessing censorship change before our eyes. Really,
that's what Future Proof is about.
Just kind of witnessing like the First Amendment change based on what you can do, in spoken word, in out in public, and then what you can do on the internet. But since so much of what people do is on the internet, that's like, this is how things are really going to change from here on out.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I just figured, why not take that concept of how like the internet used to feel like a playground, and now it feels like this dystopian city run by mega corporations and government entities and stuff. And so that was the whole idea of Future Proof, was to kind of have that visual that was reminiscent of the late 90s, early 2000s, when it was a different era, and then talk about how it's kind of changed over the years. But yeah, it's wild. We've definitely seen it. And I feel like a lot of stuff, like when you hear the word metaverse, you oftentimes think about like the Mark Zuckerberg, like whatever he's doing thing. But I know a lot of people who are in the metaverse, like my buddy Shark Anthony, who's doing like these, like music video festivals and live performances and stuff like that. And so like, I feel like that's kind of like Decentraland and like the Crypto Voxels network. Like I feel like that's kind of the future of like, we're talking about like the whole Ready Player One aesthetic or whatever, of people like, coming into these virtual spaces and stuff. I feel like that is the closest thing to like what the internet felt like 20 years ago that we have today, is like something that's undiscovered. Like we're figuring it out as we go. It's like uncharted territory. The internet used to feel like that, and it doesn't anymore. So
yeah, I mean, I ask people that all the time. Do you think you could live your life without the internet?
For the work that I do, no, I couldn't. Although I wish I could. I don't really. I more or less, I use the internet as a place to network and archive and check out cool stuff like for example, my Discord and some of the other Discord servers on. It's people posting artwork that they found or found in like. I go to a lot of vintage bookstores, and I know a lot of these other people do too. So we'll find books with artwork that you're not going to find on the internet unless we put it there. So I'm into that kind of stuff, like using the internet as a place to like archive and like keep things intact from other eras. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. It's just like, when Y2K happened, it was like, boom, here's the internet, and now you can't live without it. And then when it's like 2020 happened, like, boom, here's COVID, and now you can't operate without it in consideration, You know
what it is? It's when it became smartphones. So like the whole like the internet when I was like a kid, like ages like 11, 12, so like 2000, 2001, like all the way up to like 2007, 2008, pretty much like it was like a really cool, like it was just like a subculture where people were doing music and art and memes and stuff. And I would say it was like around like the time that things started becoming like streaming movies, streaming music, buying everything online, having it right there in the palm of your hand. online dating, all this kind of stuff has really changed like the fabric of society in like 12 years.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
totally.
a really different kind of like, it's just crazy how much like the internet, having the internet specifically in the palm of your hand, that's what I think it is when the internet jumped from being, you know, on your desktop, you had to log in, it took you a minute.
Yeah, because I remember in middle school we had to get home to go on MySpace. I'm like, I could never be a kid now, bro, because like everybody has all this social media in their hand. Like the cyberbullying's crazy. Like I would be so bad if I was like in high school right now or middle school, like on a field trip, like posting all these like fucking at a museum, like posting like gifs of statues' noses. Like I'd be crazy.
I miss that era, to be honest, because it was like, it's like, I love the internet. I love that we have access to communicate with people all over the world. We can, you know, share music and memes and art and culture and stuff. But what I don't like, it's taken over the lives of everybody to a point where it's like we're not functioning like in real life anymore. You know what I mean? And like that's what I want to see happen. And yeah, I'm thankful that I got to grow up in a time where you had to log on like on a computer when you got home from school. Like I'm thankful for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there was something more pure about it when you didn't have as many options.
Yeah, for sure. And like the way music and movie things have like sort of, you know, everything's made for streaming now. Like I don't know, I miss that era when you'd like buy a CD or something.
Well, we're almost out of time, Cody. I did have one more for you just about the song Twice as Bright. Beautiful song, man. Tell me about how it was made and what was going on during that one.
Appreciate it. So like actually that whole era, like 2020, 2021, I was trying to do like a series of music videos that were sort of like my coming of age. Like I kind of reached a point where it's like, I don't really want to do like the music thing, like try to take it too seriously anymore. Like, you know, I'm always gonna do it for fun, but I want to put out like a series of music videos that kind of like each kind of show like a different phase of my life. And Twice as Bright was kind of like the ending of that whole like series of music videos. So it was sort of talking about like, you know, at that point, it's like, you know, I had kind of, I guess Poser was the first of them. And it was kind of, you know, it was kind of dealing with being a young kid. It was kind of a throwback to being like, you know, when I was like 12, 13, really trying to like be in the bands. And went to Sun Chaser, which was sort of, you know, or I guess Side Effects Included, which is sort of, you're in it. You're part of the music thing. You're really trying for it. Sun Chaser, which was the next one, was sort of, you're lost in it. Future Proof would have been the next one after that, which was like trying to, all right, I'm lost in it. I'm going to see how far deep it goes. Twice as Bright was kind of like the, I'm out of it. Like I'm onto other things now. Like that's the end of that. You know what I mean? So it's like a series of music videos. So Twice as Bright was sort of like the ending of like 5 different videos.
Got you. Okay. Yeah. Oh, so it was like the conclusion of a series.
Yeah.
Okay. Dope. Well, Cody, is there anything else you have going on in your life you want people to know about, or what's next?
Absolutely, hop on the Etsy. I got all kinds of cool stickers you can check out. I got the hats, you know what I'm saying? Also, send me your address. I'll send you some merchandise. I got stickers, pins, patches.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, we got the t-shirts out here, you know what I'm saying? So definitely hop on the Etsy, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I plan on putting out a whole lot of cool tutorials, and like, you know, I'm still gonna be doing music stuff. I'm not really gonna be like campaigning with the music videos and all that kind of stuff, but I'm still gonna be doing some fun music stuff. And apart from that, just working, doing this this online university class, and just like staying busy with all that stuff.
Nice. Okay, so you teach virtually.
Yeah, it's a Zoom class. We meet a few times a week, and it's all motion design, so we're learning how to do the basics of After Effects.
So you have students from all around the world, or just in Georgia, or just in all around the country?
It's universities in Virginia.
Okay.
So it's just a class of students who are at that university, and I'm just teaching it online.
Very nice. How long have you been doing that for?
I just started. This is the first semester doing it, and it's it's been a fun thing. I'm kind of learning how to balance that in with my schedule with all the other things that I do. So it's definitely fun, and it's given me some ideas for other kind of YouTube content, because a lot of my YouTube stuff is focused on like fonts and stuff like that. So doing a little bit more After Effects YouTube videos is really cool too. Being able to share that with the students and stuff.
I like it, man. That sounds like a sweet job.
Appreciate it, dude. Yeah, it's just like a little side gig. Almost everything I do is just a bunch of side gigs that all kind of come together to be one.
Hustling. That's how it is. That's how it's gonna be now. Like with the gig economy, it's like there's a bunch of collection of side hustles.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, running the Etsy, doing the YouTube, having the class. All the clients have my main client that I'm in house, Disco Bid. Shout out to those guys. I'm in house with them a few days a week, doing like packaging, graphics, photography, all that stuff. So yeah,
awesome.
staying busy. staying busy.
There you go. All right, Cody, let them know where they can find you, follow you, and check out all of Cody Vondell stuff.
Absolutely. It's at Cody Vondell on all platforms, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever you're using. Just check me out. And it's been a pleasure, dude. Thank you so much for having me out here, dude.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, man. We got to have you back soon, or we got to stay in touch, man. There's a lot of things I definitely could see us partnering on in the future. So let's make it happen.
Absolutely, dude. Appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Everybody, this has been PALMCAST. Thank you for tuning in. You can check us out at prettyawesomelitmusic.com, youtube.com/PalmOfficial, and stay up to date on everything on Instagram at Palm. You already know how to spell it. TikTok, same thing. Twitter, Dylan is Palm. Cody, thank you so much, man. Have a great day.
Likewise.
Peace, love, Palm.